Good evening, everyone. Oh, it echoes in here, doesn't it? The power of the microphone. We're just a little late getting the technology sorted, so thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for those who are joining online. A couple of reminders. We are doing it as a hybrid meeting, and we have one of our members, Charisse, is joining in. We were expecting another one person joining in on online. In order for anybody to hear you online, you have to press the button on your microphone. And when you finish speaking, you have to remember to unpress the button or press it again. For those of us who are not familiar with it, it causes all sorts of common problems. But I think you can hear that when the button is pressed, there is a sort of echoey voice around the room. So anyway, welcome to this evening's meeting. Great to see such a good turnout on what looks like a bit of a wet evening. There haven't been any changes to membership from last time, so I wasn't planning to go around the room and get everybody introduced. So I thought it would need time to take too much time. If you want to meet afterwards, yes, we have to get out reasonably quickly, but there's still time to just have a little bit of an interaction afterwards. So yeah. So and welcome to Charisse and Jenny, who are joining online. So hello there. You can hear us, can you?
I can hear you. I can't see you though.
Can
you see me?
We can see you.
That's very interesting because I can't see.
Can you not see you? Is somebody sharing the screen?
No, but don't worry. I'll just keep trying and I'll work it out eventually.
Right. Stephen, can you just try sharing your screen so that those online can see it? Your screen there, but it's not appearing on through the forum. Yeah, shouldn't it?
It should come up. I don't know. I don't use Teams very often, and I haven't on this laptop yet.
But yeah, you shouldn't have to do anything specifically to be able to see the screen or see the slides.
It'll be fine.
Okay, we'll move on anyway. So
thank you.
If you know,
just to confirm, I can see the slides on the screen. I'm only not there because I've got a bit of a cold. That's why I'm online.
Oh well, we hope you're better soon, Charisse.
So I can see the slides fine. Yeah.
Right. So it's just Jenny that can't.
It's just me. Yes, that would be usual. Carry on, and I'll listen carefully.
I think it's from the camera. Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. Charisse, can you see me as well as the slides?
Yes, I can see you all in the chamber.
You can see the red chamber and the slides. So quite what's happening with Jenny, I don't know.
Not to worry. Not to worry. I'll listen for now.
Yeah, that's fine. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. So just as I say, working as a hybrid meeting, we have to be a little disciplined of how we use the technology. Housekeeping. Are there any fire alarm practices due this evening? Follow the green signs to the exit if they go off. Otherwise, let's move on to item 2. If we can move the slides on to a couple of slides. Right, there we go. As I said, no further changes of membership. And Rose was busy updating the members' interest list. It's important, given that we're a publicly, what's the right word, visible body, that we should be transparent about any areas that are our own personal interests. Although it is a forum, so it doesn't mean that we have to sort of recuse ourselves, I think, to go out if it's related to a personal interest. That the forum is not a decision-making body, it's an advisory body. Is that right?
That's right. Thanks, Colin. Yeah, we've updated the members' interest list now, so thank you for everyone who fed back to me. Is everyone happy for me to include that copy now on our website on the Local Countryside Access Forum page? Is any objections to displaying that information? There's nothing personal. It just explains your interest in relation to the Local Access Forum. Okay, lovely. That's great. I'll make sure that gets published. Thank you.
In case anybody's been thinking about it for the last few months, we're still waiting to find a vice chair for the forum. A lot of silence around the room. It isn't a particularly onerous task. That basically only has to really stand in if the chair isn't available to take a meeting. But if there was somebody who wanted to sidle up to me afterwards, it would be nice to have a vice chair. I wouldn't feel under quite so much pressure. So let's move on. Minutes, item 3. Thank you, Stephen. So the minutes of the last meeting were circulated. I trust you've all read them. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the minutes of the last meeting? Nope. In that case, we'll take those as approved. And then Appendix 1 to the agenda had an update to the actions from the last meeting that doesn't, so we don't have to go through step by step and review every one. Did anybody have any questions about that? Some of the items will crop up again as the meeting progresses. Inevitably, they don't always get closed out. Rose?
Yes, thanks, Colin. I just wanted to give an update on some of these actions. I know obviously they were covered in the appendix, but just to say we did forward the matter regarding the illegal closure of West End Lane and Warfield to Highways and Planning. So that matters with them for follow-up. We also, Hugh, I believe, requested clarification regarding the Water Splash Lane connection, which was referenced in June, the meeting minutes. We've done some looking into this, Hugh. I believe that when Graham was in post, he was looking at the Warfield strategic development proposals and looking at a potential, looking with planning, a potential link between Water Splash Lane to Maze Lane, which would pass through several green spaces, which he was looking into. At the moment, it's still kind of in development. It's been looked at. But yes, it's
almost connected. And
yeah, press your button, otherwise nobody.
It is almost connected by Hedge Lane.
Yes, it would.
Which I gather you're now going to close for a time, but that's by
we'll come to that later on.
And it's merely crossing Priory Field, which is the big issue, and whether there is or there isn't a bridle way down through Larks Hill. I don't think there is. I think you're thinking that it's the lane, whose name I can't immediately remember, Water Splash Lane, which is the prescribed horse route, which does link up with Avery Lane.
No, we were sort of looking into the potential of whether we could have permissive access through Larks Hill. And I know Graham was looking into the suggestion of a Pegasus crossing at Newell Green. But it, like I said, it was something that Graham was looking into with planning. And obviously now Rob and I are sort of taking on more of the responsibilities. We'll continue to
put into the pool. I think you're pushing against the locked door, and it should remain locked, of allowing more horses into an area that is coming really totally urbanized. And horses, dog walking, childs on cyclists, they do not mix.
Right.
And I can see no case for increasing horse access in the centre of Warfield.
Does anyone else in the forum want to contribute to what Hugh's just reported? Anyone else got any feelings on the situation? Oh, Rob, yeah.
As a council officer, I just to say, just to put my 2 pennies worth, is we do get quite a few inquiries from residents regarding horse riders riding, should we say, off-piste in terms of that area.
No option, you see.
But by providing a route, I think we might be able to encourage horse riders to use those kind of viable routes linking from one section to another, which do still get used. And if those links aren't there, there's a likelihood that people will make their own way. And I think that'd just be the flip side of the coin, is all I'm really saying.
I think that the stables will die out in Warfield because there are not the facilities for them any longer. And there shouldn't be. You don't have stables in the middle of Bracknell any longer.
I'm going to agree with Rob. I get a lot of contact from horse riders and they are very concerned about losing those routes through. So if we can provide them with a formal route that they are allowed to use, I think that will satisfy them.
I'm not suggesting they should lose routes. It's creating new ones that I'm against.
So is there a plan to bring together something that would be a formal proposal to for a project on this, or is it something that yeah.
I'm wary of turning another microphone off because I think there's another one there. But, so I would just add that I think the planning process is the proper forum for all of these to be considered. So whilst it's good for us to have this debate, then all of the decisions that lie before the landowners and the developers and the people involved with those actual constructions, it will be through the planning process essentially. So I don't feel like there's an action particularly for us to take here or a project to have here, but I think that understanding is useful from the experts around the table, and then when the time comes, then that can all be fed in. But a lot of it will be outside of our control. All I'm aware of from the planning point of view is that they have sought the funding through the Section 106 scheme to do the Pegasus crossings and do the works that might be required to improve the connectivity in that area. But exactly what is actually laid out and what is actually built would all still come through the planning process.
Yeah, so we did say in previous meetings we'd like to be more aligned with the planning process, and I think if a plan comes forward from that process, it would be great if it could be brought before the forum so that at least views can be expressed. We may not get unanimity of view, but at least views can be expressed and thoughts can be put into it. If that would be the right approach.
Yeah, I would say that the one thing you need to be careful of is there needs to be the one thing that the LCAF can contribute is sort of a user's perspective of any proposed plan. These plans tend to be put together by people who don't ride horses, bicycles, walk long distance or anything. They have jobs and ambitions and things like that. So one way or another, we should be able to present a user's perspective, I think.
I agree, that would be good. Rose, did you want to say something about the footbridge, or is that coming up later?
Yeah, I think Stephen was happy to give an update on the situation with the Blackwater Valley footbridge.
Yes, thank you. I'm very happy to update. The budget setting cycles are currently coming to their conclusion. So February is the month where budget setting cycles are concluded. I remain confident that the funding has been secured to replace that bridge. The various organisations that have a vested interest in that route and in that bridge are frequent collaborators with the council. We try and work in partnership wherever we can. So the invite has been put out for other partners to contribute where they can, but the Borough Council itself, as people may have seen from the budget that went out to consultation, the Borough Council has put sufficient provision in our own budget that's being put forward to be confident that we can actually replace that bridge, but we're just waiting for confirmation of exactly how that funding will be made up. But work is underway at the moment with the Rangers. We're investigating what the requirements will be for doing the scheme. We're looking into all of the permits and those sorts of things. It's going to be a challenging project to work over a river and to work within a triple SI. So it's going to be somewhat weather dependent and requiring various permits to be achieved. So we look forward to doing the work over the summer. We are putting plans in place to do the work as soon as we can, but we just need to wait for the budgets to be confirmed at the end of the month. And then we can clarify exactly how we're going to proceed.
Thank you. And in the meantime, it seems to have got some attention from the local press and the BBC. So that's good. Any questions on that? Okay. And the only other thing from the actions from last time is my failure to organise a site visit. I think there's some at the end for me to talk about that. So I'll hold that off until later, because I think as the weather improves and the hedge laying season dies out, we might be able to organise something on a Saturday. Okay. Oh yes, Sheila.
I should know that as well. There was an item relating to the track through Haley Green on that in that section.
Yeah.
And I know that Rose sent out an update to all those who responded to the question of whether or not it was a public right of way. I had a couple of questions. Can I do them now, or should I wait until another point in the agenda?
I believe, whilst we don't have a separate slide on Haley Green Track, we were going to give an update under any other business. If that's okay,
fine.
Sheila.
Yes, thank you.
Lovely. And just to explain, the statement went out was a joint statement, which Rob, myself, and Stephen all fed into, and we got some sort of legal steer on it as well, because it's important that we get everything correct, and make the sort of the communication as transparent, as clear as possible. So yeah, thank you.
So don't let us forget to bring it up at the end, Sheila. Right. I think then we move on to item 4, which we're very pleased to have Richard here. I should have introduced him at the start, actually, because not everybody will have met Richard Everett. Richard, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, no problem. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to come along. I'm Richard Everett. I'm the Chief Forester at the Crown Estate, based at Windsor. It's my responsibility to look after the trees and the forests and all those sorts of areas around Windsor Great Park. I think generally we are going to try and attend this meeting with one of our team for each one. I think our forest wardens have attended the last one or two. Stuart at the last one. So between the wardens and myself, we'll come along and give you an update from the Crown Estate perspective. So I've just got a few points, so just run through. I was just following. First one I'm going to just pick up on is an update on what Stuart was talking to you about at the last meeting about the sort of electric motorbike issue we've got in Swinley Forest, which since that meeting seems to have died down a little bit, mainly because it's sort of poured down generally since the last meeting. I think there must be sort of fair weather motorbikers, I think, generally. But it is quite a significant problem for us in the forest, that sort of unauthorised use. They have been coming in on sort of en masse in the forest and causing problems for other forest users.
I just comment on that briefly. I walk a lot in the forest, a great deal, and I see motorbikes on a fairly regular, fairly regularly. I've also seen quad bike and the e-motorbikes, the electric motorbikes. Yeah, they're not. I did see quite a few, but I haven't seen any for some months now. But they're always the same people. I think there's about 5 or 6 people who just ride them a lot. But I'll have an item about that later on any other business. Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. They come through in sort of fits and starts. There's certain groups that we know of. We know roughly where they're coming from, and just the difficulty in sort of catching up with them. But we have been had some success with working in partnership with Thames Valley Police, and we've now had 2 patrols in the forest by Thames Valley Police on motorcycles. So they've had a familiarisation visit with our wardens, who've shown them around and shown them the sort of places where they tend to congregate, and we've sort of shared some information with them. And then there was a second patrol a couple of weeks ago where 2 of the police inspectors came out and did their patrol. So we hope that that's going to sort of ramp up as we get towards Easter, and we expect more of this sort of behaviour to continue. So I think that's a really positive step that we've managed to get a partnership going with Thames Valley Police. So that's good news. Hopefully it has some results on there. Just an update on forest signage. I'm afraid we haven't quite yet got the Ramblers route signs in. They're due to go in fairly soon. But we'll be putting them in alongside some revamped interpretation in the forest, which follows on from the sort of re-signing of the cycle trail network. We've done quite a lot of work on the cycle trail network, and it made a few changes to the route. So the current signage is now out of date. So we've been revamping a lot of that signage, redesigning it with our design team. And fairly shortly, we'll be getting new sort of interpretation boards and mapping out, which will mainly sort of cater for the cycle trail infrastructure, but will also have a kind of wider forest mapping element to it for access on foot and walkers. We are very aware in the forest and in the park that we have a number of different users in those spaces, and they don't necessarily always kind of get on. And so as part of addressing that, we are having a Sharing the Space event at Windsor Great Park on the 6th of April, which will be held just inside Blackness Gate at Windsor Great Park on the grass area there, where we've got the British Horse Society, Battersea, the Dogs Trust, Windsor Cycle Hub, and the Thames Basin Heaths rangers coming along to basically talk to our members of the public, talk to users of the park, and just try and educate people on the requirements of all the different user groups that are using the park, how to behave around horses, how to manage dogs in those sorts of situations, how cyclists should behave, all those sorts of things. So that's quite a new event that we're holding there, and if it's a success, we'll run that again in the future, and maybe in different locations on the estate. But for the time being, that's going to take place in the park. Sunday the 6th of April, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Following on from that, we are working on a dog project in the park. This will be improving our communications with dog owners, how we expect them to behave when they visit the countryside and the park and the forest. There'll be a designated space on our website which will host that information. That's coming in the next few weeks. There'll also be some information on there about commercial dog walking on the estate. So that's definitely something we'll update you on at the next Access Forum meeting, because we're not quite there with it yet, but it's coming soon. We're also working quite closely a bit more closely with the Thames Basin Heaths wardens. They've supplied us with some of their leaflets and publications, which our wardens are now giving out to members of the public when they're talking about behaviours of around the heathland areas and the importance of staying on paths during ground nesting bird season, that sort of thing. So we're working with them. Like I said, they're coming to our Sharing the Space event, and then we'll probably do something with them in Heath Week, I think, with the
Can I just add, I'm not sure if you would have been in the meeting when it was mentioned, but we also have a sort of SANGS, or I can't remember the title of the leaflet, but a public open space leaflet for Bracknell Council as well. So that might be useful in terms of
Great spaces for circular walks.
well done, Rose,
Yeah.
thank you. Which highlights a lot of our SANG sites and things like that, which might be useful to give out in terms of avoiding SPA areas and things like that, which we'd be happy to.
Yeah, we've got that one.
You have.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think we'll be referencing that on our dogs page on our website as well. So that's good. I think that's generally it on my list. Unless if anyone's got any questions.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody got any comments or questions or issues? Sue?
No questions, but I would just like to say huge thanks for the signs in Swinley Forest particularly, because I think it's made it a lot safer in terms of people didn't know what way to go, what were cycle paths, what were footpaths and things like that. So I think it's been brilliant. Thanks.
Okay, that's it. That was phase one. So hopefully phase two will make it even better. So thank you.
So I did have a couple of questions for you. At Swinley Park, the car park just off Swinley Road, it had an area set aside for horse riders because I think you were trying to move the horse riders from Swinley Forest to Swinley Park. I don't think I've ever really seen a horse rider in Swinley Park. Is anybody using it for horses?
I think there's about 3 members that use it.
Right.
Occasionally.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not it's very heavily used.
Because they have to basically bring their horse in a truck or something, don't they?
Yeah. There's not really any other access into there.
Okay.
So yes, it's for boxing in.
All right.
But yes, it's not terribly well used.
Right. And then the other comment I had is that now that we can no longer walk through Blaine's Farm, where it's all fenced off, where the your depot is, the path around the side is a little obscure, shall we say, and sometimes a little muddy, whereas it used to be a fairly straightforward path to walk through the centre of Blaine's Farm area to catch up, to get onto the tarmac road on the other side. So if there's anything that you can do to make that a little easier to follow, then it would certainly improve my circular walks.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. It sort of starts off as quite a good path from one side, and then it just sort of disappears into the forest. And the path that sort of takes you around and up the Lime Avenue is not particularly good all-weather track either. So no, absolutely, we'll see if we can at least at minimum put some drainage and some better directions on it.
I think it's that part of it that's it is a little difficult to navigate through. I've learnt my way, but I've seen people getting completely lost in the woodland there.
Yeah. Okay. No problem.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments about the Crown Estate land? I mean, we are so blessed to have so much Crown Estate land for being able to get out and go our various outdoor activities. It's it is amazing asset to Bracknell Forest. So thank you for your team for all the work that you do, because so many people seem to appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to item 5. And I believe that Les and Sharon, you've been to Peacock Meadows. And so for those of you online, Sharon's handing around some printed reports on her visits to Peacock Meadows and Horseshoe Lake. You will have to press the button on your microphone to be heard. So I'm afraid we can't share with you the document, but anyway, it's coming round.
I also want to say thank you, Sharon, Les, for providing your accounts of your last site visits, which I forwarded to the site rangers for their information, and looking to include that in our annual report as well. So thank you very much.
Okay, well, hopefully these ones will be as helpful. I have mentioned in here about we've used the circular walks as well, so hopefully that'll be helpful for the future. So would you like me to read through, or are you just going to, yeah?
if you read through it, because I think the folks online won't be able to.
Oh, that's it. Okay, so our first one, if we go Peacock Meadows, we went on the 15th of January. As you can see, Les is very well wrapped up there because it was freezing. So it was a delightful, bright and chilly January afternoon. So we decided to make the most of this and visit Peacock Meadows. Les and I wrapped up well to protect us from the bitter wind because it was absolutely freezing, wasn't it, Les? But the sun was out. I'm not sure if it was my poor direction or if it was difficult to find the car park on Swiftfields. We did eventually find the car park, which to be honest should not have been hard to find, but we did drive round in quite a few circles. The disabled parking and space to alight the wheelchair was very good. The signposting was clear and information for the South Walk and was on hand as soon as we entered the area. The bollards at the entrance also added to the safe security of the pathway, so as soon as Les was alighted from the vehicle, we felt he was in a safe position. The sculpture is a lovely starting point for the walk and is a good focus point as you begin the circuit. The rustic look of the sculpture is in keeping with the natural surroundings and makes the area feel creatively designed and well cared for. Les had his map ready for action. This clear map was included in the Great Places for Circular Walks folder provided from Bracknell Forest Council, a very useful folder for walkers. We would highly recommend this to all users. These maps are easy to follow, simple and clearly marked. The key for this walk offers different walks, entrance information points and picnic areas. The path is in a good condition when you think of the awful weather we have had lately. At 3 o'clock, the sun shone over the open space and it looked very inviting. We could tell we were going to have an enjoyable walk. The pathway is a good width with plenty of room for the wheelchair, myself walking alongside and dog walkers. Sections of the pathway are bumpy at times due to changing surfaces throughout, but Les has coped well. Lots of long grasses and bushes invited us into the area ahead. Off the main path, the grass pathways were of a suitable length for the chair, and Les again felt safe and secure moving along these. From this point, we could turn either way for the public footpath or the circular walk. We tried both. Both were accessible along the areas we covered. After following the path, admiring the views and listening to birds singing, we then arrived at the sculpture in the centre of the area, Birds in Flight. From here, we had a delightful view of the surrounding area. The Fujitsu building and the rest of the new buildings in the town were clearly seen, and they were a clear point to mark our position in relation to Bracknell town. The path is quite a slope going away from the sculpture, but okay for the chair if going at a sensible speed and steady pace. Lots of dogs in warm coats, we hasten to add, and owners pass us on this section, all looking like they are having fun. The trees, although many were without leaves, were reflecting the afternoon sunshine, and the light gave the park a calming glow. We really do feel we are out in the open countryside, even though we are not far from the town. We both agreed the park was relaxing for body and mind, very calm. The Southfield sign positions encourages passers to take a moment and respect the countryside. We are coming up to another walkway. This does have a swing gate. Les would not be able to go through this on his chair. It is not part of the circular walk, so Les does not feel he has missed out. It was the Ramblers route. We continued the rest of the circular route. Signposts along the route are clear and easily viewed. Different pathways, Main Car Park, Peacock Meadows, Stampstead Park, Jennets Hill and Peacock Meadows North could easily be followed using signage. The main sign, including information to add interest to the walk, was a good talking point and added additional observation awareness for us both on our first visit. These and the map were very clear and defined the route well. The signs were all in keeping with the surrounding area and were rustic and not domineering of the countryside. Our walk today was a good distance to cover and relaxing and easily accessible for Les. The area as a whole is well managed and inviting. As a wheelchair user, he had not been limited to any area of the route given. The paths were of a good quality, especially as the weather the weeks before had been very wet and windy. We felt the location made the most of its surroundings and it was easy to enjoy your time in this unspoilt space. Peacock Meadows is a perfect destination for dog walkers, families and wheelchair users. It has parking, I once found, and was an open space welcomed in the middle of a new housing estate. When we then finished our afternoon out with a meal at the Peacock Farm pub restaurant, this was wheelchair friendly also, with very friendly staff, a great end to a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. And anybody got any questions?
I could make one. Oh, yes, working. Well, one comment. If you thought it was nice in January, you need to go in April. It is absolutely glorious.
I've mentioned on our next walk, I've mentioned, I think we'd like to try that in better weather. I know the walks we were lucky enough to do in the summer, we absolutely loved. So I think, as I said, it's nice actually to do things in both weathers, for the surfaces, for Les especially, but we realise it's going to be nicer in the better weather. Thank you.
I was actually thinking of the flowers. The whole area is gorgeous, glorious in spring. It really is not to be missed.
We'll definitely take you up on that.
So I was intrigued by your comment that the grass pathways were okay for the wheelchair. Is that because you've got a special wheelchair for it, or is it something that generally a wheelchair user would be able to use a grass pathway?
Yeah, I think so. This one with the wheels on the back has a good tread on.
Right.
Not a smooth tread. So that's why this is more user friendly for the grass area.
Yeah, one of the reasons I'm asking is because quite a few of our other suitable alternative green spaces don't have hard pathways on them. The developers were not required to put them in. And I was just wondering how much that would affect the accessibility. And I was also thinking about it from the point of view of having a team or forum visit to a place as to where it might actually be suitable for you. But
I think you'll see from our next report, the surface is probably, the actual surface is not quite as important as the camber of the path. And so that's, you'll see we struggled a little bit in the second one.
Okay, well, why don't you move on to the next one and then we can follow up with the discussion. Oh, sorry, Dennis, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to say, have you tried Buckler's Forest? It's the surfaces are brilliant, but I understand about the camber because I have a very frail elderly aunt and I've pushed her around, and it's the angle, and you want flat paths. Yes, they can be rough as long as they're flat.
If you can, there is a report we did last time, so maybe we could get handed to you for another time. So our next visit was to Horseshoe Lake. That was on the 28th of January, again at about 3 o'clock. It seems to be the most suitable time for Les and myself to be able to get out of the home and escape, isn't it, Les, really? So we just arrived at Horseshoe Lake on another bright wintry day. It's 3:10 on Sunday afternoon. The journey here was windy and through estates and country roads, but we found it okay. We actually, on the way back, took a slightly different route. It was a lot easier to get there. So we came via the sat-nav, which was probably a bit difficult. On arrival, the parking was on the left-hand side. It was very busy and we did not find any allocated disabled parking space. We found a small space that I managed to squeeze the car into carefully. Les had space to reverse from the vehicle and we were ready for action. We have our plan from the Great Places for Circular Walks pack. We find a narrow path between the car park and the lake area in view. The path is narrow enough width only for the chair, but Les guided himself through safely. A couple of walkers waited for us to pass. A dog walker also took the time to chat with Les. As we approached the lake, the sun was coming out and the view is very picturesque. On our right-hand side, as we walk along, we spot a large surface car park. Disabled parking is available and marked in this area. We are not sure if this is for the public or the activity centre, so I'm not sure if we were in the official car park or not. We didn't realise and said until we got out of the car and went along, then we saw it, didn't we?
That's right.
Just for clarification, I think that car park is for the activity centre and not available for the general public.
I think we sort of thought that, but we thought maybe we would just been a little bit silly.
You do have the potential to get locked in.
Yeah, we noticed that on the gate. Sorry. On our right-hand side.
Sorry, can I just very quickly add just to that? I think it'd just be important to note that The first car park would probably be generally used as for the site users, with the second one closer to the activity centre for activity centre users. However, there is nothing to stop one or the other using those car park, especially with the disabled bays. If they are free and at the end, then by all means use those ones.
Okay, lovely. So we took the photograph to show there was nobody in those disabled bays. So that's why I said we did laugh after we went through the mud, didn't we? On our right-hand side, we spot the disabled toilet. This is a practical size and easy to access with all apparatus in a good position. As we approach lake, we see a coffee shop on the right. We decided to stop for a coffee in case it closes early on a Sunday afternoon. Going back to the toilet facility, I thought that was really good because we've not seen anything on our other walk so open and easy to access, was it? So that we thought that was really good there. The cafe has a gravelly path with a little bit of texture and a nice wooden slope going up to the main entrance. Unfortunately, we cannot get into the main cafe as it has a ridge on the door frame base, which is a little picture there. We found a side hatch where we were served our coffees and then we sat outside to drink. Nice view over the lake. First walk we have done with the coffee shop, which is nice. On Les's phone, we downloaded the information from the QR code, which was on the map from the booklet. This information has come up quickly as on the phone, so the reception must be good, and it is a good extra piece of detail of the area, facilities, how to get around, bird's eye view, etc. So there's a picture there, Les enjoying his coffee there. We are following the walk in reverse as we parked in the other car park. The path seems good so far. The wooden gate area, I think it's called a cycle guard, managed easily in the wheelchair by Les. So that was easy for you to get through, wasn't it? The path is a bit muddy and a little uneven, but we were managing okay. A good view of the distance ahead. I then felt a bit nervous as path is on a camber. At this time, Les still was managing at a slow speed. He did tell me afterwards he did feel a bit nervous. I did worry as the edge looked near to the lake. Les was going as slow as possible as he had now started to feel insecure as we are getting nearer the side of the lake. Once straighter, the path was more even in texture, but the camber made it feel unstable. As we were deciding the sensible next steps due to the pathway, shall we turn back? Our decision was made for us. Walkers mentioned the path would be unsafe ahead as it was so muddy and unpassable. Unfortunately, we had to abort the walk. Les was disappointed as we do not like to give up easily, but safety is the priority. I thought that picture was quite good to show the different angles as we were going along as it was going more and more slopey there. Even if the paths were dry, Les feels the paths were not suitable for a wheelchair user now due to the quality of the surface. The path's texture was unstable and kept breaking up on the lakeside edge. The angle and closeness to the edge of the lake did not make him feel secure with his chair. The front wheels kept being pulled in the opposite direction, pulling him down into the bramble area surrounding the lake. And it would have been a lot of forms to fill in if you'd fallen in, wouldn't it? A slow ride back to the car park. Les gave his wheels a good clean in the main car park. We will certainly attempt this walk again as the weather improves and give our feedback. A lovely area, just not for a wheelchair user at the present time. Fingers crossed for the future.
Can I just check the location of that path with the adverse camber? Is that on the north side of the lake?
So it says you came out of the car, out of the coffee shop,
yeah.
You turned right, and then as you go through the bike guard or whatever it is and go around, then as you turn round, you're turning around there.
Turning to go alongside the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had a brambles before the lake.
Yeah. Okay. I think there's some learning there. Rob, do you want to comment?
Yeah, just very quickly. As it happens, I'm very much aware that the site ranger has slightly coincidentally been talking to another wheelchair user who does use the site from time to time. I think they're in a pushed wheelchair rather than a self-propelled one. And a very similar report has been provided by them. So that's useful to have both reports. he is putting together kind of a specification on kind of what we can do to kind of try and improve the site. Obviously, a lot of this kind of funding will obviously come into that at some point, but I know we're kind of working on it, and it's certainly on our mindset to try and do what we can to try and get that circle as wheelchair friendly as possible.
Yeah, I think we really liked the area. We thought it was really nice because I said the thing about the toilets, the coffee shop, and all those sort of things is nice when you do go out. As I said, I think I personally have learned a lot since being with wheelchair users. Visually, and our brain, when we were on our 2 legs walking along, we just gradually just adjust everything, and you don't realise the camber, and such a slight one can make such a difference on a chair, can't it, Les?
Oh yeah.
And Les isn't one to feel nervous. And when I knew I was feeling nervous, and he said he was all right, but he did admit afterwards he wasn't. But then when we just decided, it wasn't worth the forms to fill in after.
No. And me getting wet and prickled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would have laughed. But it was a very nice place. So we will attempt it again in better weather and see. But I said, you do feel at the moment, particularly, it wouldn't be, even in dry weather, it wouldn't be good. No.
And is that something you feed back to the site ranger?
Yeah, I will provide both of these reports to the equivalent rangers. Like I say, the site ranger of Horseshoe Lake is kind of aware of that. And yeah, we will see what we can do.
Yeah, part of a learning day as well for other rangers about camber being an issue. But okay, Michael, you got a question, comment?
Colin, I have to say the presentations were excellent. The quality of the photographs, the narrative, a lot of work went into something like that. It's not just Control-Alt-Delete, so well done. My question really is specifically aimed at the difficulty that you had in terms of accessing the space, the disabled space, which wasn't available. You said you couldn't find any that were available in the first car park. Is that because they were all occupied by disabled users? Were you able to identify if there'd actually been any abuse, in other words, of a non-disabled person taking a disabled bay?
I don't think, unless somebody's totally parked, I don't think there was any disabled parking spaces there. It's a very rustic little parking area, to be fair. And as I said, it looks like there's quite a bit of space there, but trying to get the angle to get in was quite tight. But as I said, we did laugh when I went around the corner and there was all those massive spaces we could probably have parked. You said we got permission to park in. You could park in those.
But you didn't actually see any signs, in other words, that have the disabled logo?
No, I didn't see any, no.
A question maybe then to ask of Rob on this. What is the mechanism for enforcing the disabled parking provision if non-disabled users actually park in a disabled bay? It's obviously it's private land, I suppose, in that it's not Thames Valley Police. Is there any enforcement mechanism, or is it just one of those things that are left to the public and their integrity?
Yeah, I'm happy to have a go at answering that for you, Michael. The simple answer is that the council has enforcement wardens. So if they happen to be in the location, then they absolutely could, I'm sure, take action on that and take some details and follow up. The reality is that it's not a car park that's covered by that warden because it's a free car park. I think what struck me is probably twofold. The first one is how valuable getting the sort of negative feedback is. I really enjoy, I would echo what Michael said about the quality of the reports. I felt like I came on that journey with you, which is lovely. And when you've had a lovely day, obviously it's lovely to hear that. But the ones that are most important and most valuable are the ones where you find little things that we can improve. So we love hearing that feedback as well as the good stuff. What struck me was potentially signage to just make it clearer to you when you arrive that the disabled parking spaces that we are providing for public use are the ones closest to the facilities, closest to the cafe, with the best view of the lake, because that is all council car park. And whilst we would obviously ask for discretion if there's a big water sports event or something on and they're using all of the space, then we would ask the public to use the actual the sort of sand car park that's at the other end. But certainly for the disabled use, we need to make it clearer for people on arrival, turn right, come through, park in these bays that we've got provided, and then you can enjoy your visit, and we'll certainly pick up the aspect of the path as well.
I also want to thank you for some really interesting accounts there. Really enjoyed sort of telling us about your site visits. I'm just wondering as well if I could use some of the examples. I'm currently working to improve information on our website about site accessibility. We include information so people can plan for their visits to these spaces. And I'm wondering if I can use some of the information from your accounts to improve our online information so people can plan for their visits better.
Yeah, we're both happy for that.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
The issue of the cafe and the access. I presume that the cafe has a lease from Brackenwood Forest Council to operate. Is that something that we could have a look at to provide some sort of simple ramp arrangement in order that wheelchair, because if the weather's inclement, it's not really practical to be outside drinking one's coffee. I just wonder, is there provision inside the cafe for wheelchair users to use that facility if the access could be improved?
I think we can certainly share this feedback with them as the providers of those services, and I'm sure that they will be interested to hear that experience. It's lovely seeing the efforts that they're making to provide disabled toilets, so I'm sure they will be considering that feedback and how they could get somebody into their cafe. And certainly the lease allows for them to modify the building as they like, but they just need landlord consent. We would obviously be very supportive with that consent if they wanted to modify to help people get in. It shouldn't need planning permission, but I'm not a planner.
Good. Okay. Anybody else got any questions, comments? Thank you ever so much. And I think that's 2 out of 3 of the places that you've reported to us have been pretty good. One could be better, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, so we really enjoy it, don't we, Les? We enjoy going out. It's good for Les to, well, it's doing a really worthwhile task, and we're both looking at it in different ways, aren't we? So hopefully it'll help everybody, every user.
Yeah, thank you. It's so important for us to get this sort of feedback, which we haven't had access to before. So thank you ever so much. Let's keep moving on to the next slide, where I think Rob is going to tell us about his work on Binfield Footpath 11.
Yep, thank you, Colin. Yeah, just a little bit of feedback on some work that we've been doing alongside Binfield Parish Council, where we secured some SIL funding to surface a 400-metre section of Binfield Footpath 11, a particular pathway that's had a huge increase in use in the general area, certainly since the housing estate on Amon Corner North was finished. It allows an excellent little countryside route from said housing estate to Popes Meadow and wider Binfield and vice versa. So what we've managed to do is cut back a lot of the vegetation and surface that 400-metre section of otherwise very muddy path, as you can see there. It's important just to raise that those that do know that path, if we can just go back just to make it, the top section, so the northern section where it kinks out sort of pointing eastwards towards Murrow Hill Lane, does still get a little bit wet. It's a harder track, so it doesn't get muddy, but due to the hydrology of the area, it does attract a lot of water. So that's kind of our plan B or second stage project, but we need to get our thinking hats on and see what we can do about that. But the first section is significantly improved.
Good. And I think we go on at one more slide. The surface there is substantially better.
Brilliant.
Better.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And there's also a little bit of access that we've improved into Pockets Copse, which you can see on the right-hand side picture, which, although private land, because obviously we were liaising with the landowner at the time of these improvements, they are happy for people to be walking in there at the time. So we said we'd do a little bit of work around that entranceway, which was also very wet and muddy. So that's also improved a little bit as well.
Good. On the map at the beginning, it showed Pig Little Field at the bottom. Is that still in abeyance as coming over to the council for because the pathways in there last time I walked were pretty dreadful.
Still with the developer.
Still with the developer. Yeah, as always. Any questions on Footpath 11? Okay, if we move on to item 6, which is back to Rose or Rob, whoever wants to take lead on this.
Yeah, I'll take this one on. Thank you, Colin. So this is just to update members that last autumn we were working with Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks who approached us looking to temporarily close a right-of-way. In actual fact, it was Hazelwood Lane Bridleway, so they could carry out some works to electricity poles, which was kind of necessary for safety reasons. So we had to do a temporary closure of the Bridleway while they completed these works, which was done in less than 5 days. Unfortunately, due to the nature of the wet weather and using heavy machinery to access the Bridleway, there was quite a bit of damage done to the surface of the Bridleway. It was churned up. And it turned into a bit of a mess in the sections they were accessing. So we've been working with SSE to try and resolve the situation. They have agreed to reinstate the surface condition but we have to wait for better weather in which to carry out these works. If they try to do it early, then it's going to be a poor job and it's not going to address the issue. And we have to wait for the better weather. We've actually, what you can see up there on the presentation is we've put a notice up for users of the Bridleway. We wanted to be very clear that we are aware of the situation and it's something that SSE will be looking to resolve when the weather improves, and we just wanted to keep users informed about the situation. We have had a few reports back from horse riders and users of the Bridleway, but when we've actually had some thanks for all the signs we put up just to keep users informed of the situation. We've recently followed up with the Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks again, just to remind them that this is on the to-do list, that it must be done to reinstate the condition to a decent state. Rob, did you want to interject?
Yeah, only just because I don't want to forget, and just a quick thank you to Dennis, who happens to be sitting next to me, for some excellent pictures as part of your inspection. With accurate locations of those worst sections. We use those in part of our report to SSE to highlight the current state of that pathway. So thank you.
So is it actually impassable, or is it just difficult?
Sorry, yeah. It's I would say it would be impassable in any realistic sense. I'm pretty tough and used to some really rough country, and it wasn't fun at all. I was walking it. I normally cycle it, but I was walking it this time, and you had the choice of ankle deep mud on the track, or brambles on one side, or hawthorn on the other side. That's no fun.
Hugh, you had a comment?
Merely to say, historically, in about 2006, the same thing happened, and it was incredibly difficult to get the company to do anything sensible and reinstatement. They really do need to be hounded. You have to sit very tight on them.
Yeah, of course. We have got agreement from them in writing. They will rectify the situation. I'm in touch with their manager.
And we didn't have last time.
Yeah, and I'm very persuasive, and I will keep on pursuing the matter until they get the matter resolved. I am very confident from the person I've been dealing with. They seem to be very transparent, very cooperative. I'm just going to keep on sort of reminding them gently. But also we have to be sort of aware that we do need good weather to carry out these improvements. But I would say as the weather improves, we'll get more people looking to use the Bridleway, and we'll get more reports from people of the situation. So it's in our interest as well to get this matter resolved very quickly.
That's good. Any other comments, questions about the Bridleways there? Okay, I shall wait till better weather to go for an expedition down there. Let's move on to item 7, which again is down as Rob or Rose, whichever you want to take it.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. Just to let members know that we've temporarily closed Hedge Lane or Warfield Bridleway 26, which runs from Maze Lane to Old Priory Lane. This is to allow essentially works to continue with the development that's in that area. The path is closed predominantly for safety concerns, but we are also hopeful that we will be getting some improvements to the Bridleway during these improvement works. This is a TTRO. So this is a closure for up to 6 months, or when the works finish, should that be prior to 6 months. But whilst the closure notice is in place, there is no access along that bridleway. We have supplied a diversion route, albeit there is a lack of bridleways, obviously, in that area. So it does use the quiet lanes of Maze Lane and Old Priory Lane, but then either Harvest Ride to the south or Warfield Road, Warfield Street, to the north.
Could you just remind people what TTRO stands for?
Temporary Traffic Regulation Order. I'm not sure.
I thought it was, but I thought people might be looking at that and thinking, what's a TTRO?
Essentially a temporary closure.
Yeah, it's a temporary closure. Yes.
Yeah. Just to add to that, Colin, as well, we're aware, obviously, it's a big closure of a popular bridleway. So we have done some comms with residents. We did a social media post advising of the 6 month closure. We've also got a new directory or a new page on our website where we advertise when there's going to be closures, so we can signpost people to that information so they can see the map and see the alternative route. So not only do we have to put signs out on site, we also make sure it's the information is available online and via social media.
So, Sheila.
Can I just ask, is the drainage along Hedge Lane going to be improved as a result of this work?
We have a slide coming up where we kind of delve into that a little bit more. We should answer it then, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to that slide then. Oh, is it? Right, okay. I have to wait, yeah. We're always telling Sheila that she has to wait. So, okay, did anybody have any other comments on Hedge Lane? Right, we'll come back to it when we talk about the other bit. Right, so we're moving on to item 8, which is the definitive map consolidation, which has been a major exercise for Rose and Rob and Graham before them. So do you want to give us an update?
Yeah, thanks, Colin.
Actually, could you just remind everybody what the definitive map is before you go in?
Right, so the Bracknell Forest definitive map and statement of public rights of way contain all the record, both in map form and also in a statement of all the rights of way in Bracknell Forest. So it lists all the bridleways, footpath, byways, restricted byways, which are throughout Bracknell Forest. You can access maps on our website, or there are copies available at Times Square, hard copies for you to view. The actual map is kind of a snapshot in time of when the rights of way were last recorded, sorry, which was just over 10 years ago now. And we keep an online record which we update as well. So it's kind of like a live working copy, but that one is not the legal record. That's more just to see what modification orders have been made, what new footpaths have been, if there's been any deletions in the rights of way. So basically, it's just a catalogue of all the rights of way in the borough. We are sort of obliged to keep that up to date. And we've been doing an exercise over the last couple of years now. It's a big undertaking to go through and look at all the modification orders that have been made over the past, like I said, it's just over 10 years now, to the Rights of Way network. And we are cataloguing all of those. And the end goal is to republish a new snapshot of a definitive map and statement. So we've got a much more up-to-date record of this frozen snapshot in time. And that's what we've been working to achieve. It's a big undertaking. I've probably not helped the process because I'm a little bit, what's the word for it? I'm very fine detailed. I drill down to the smallest details. So this procedure is taking a bit longer to go through. And obviously we've had changes in our staffing, obviously with Graham sort of retiring and Rob and I are sort of taking on the responsibilities. Just to update you that we've the actual process of what we're doing, we've got a decision date for that of the 26th of April currently. That basically means that on the 26th of April, providing that timescale doesn't slip back further, because we have quite a bit of work to do still. Our director will be looking at seeing whether he can improve the process or not. There'll be a decision on that situation. But basically, what we'll be covering more under this particular section is some of the work we're doing to look at the Polar Club paths and it's sort of the diversions and also footpath creations. That's what we want to talk about today, really. But I thought it would be worth giving you an update on where we got to with this process, because I know that LCAF have helped input into this consultation.
Make the plea that as an appendix to the official thing, you include the SANGs in future. They're becoming such a big part of the path network, but they're not public rights of way.
Right. So in terms of definitive map and statement, I'm not sure that SANGs would qualify. These are purely public rights of way. But I would say that our rights of way improvement plan, we've taken your, I think it's your steer, Hugh, and that we've discussed at these local countryside access forum meetings, and we've made sure that SANGs are a big component within our rights of way improvement plan, which is our 10-year plan for improving rights of way and sort of accessible routes. So we do agree that it's part of a wide rights of way, part of a wider
attached just with an appendix. I know they can't be legally part of the statement because they are not rights of way, but they will soon make up more than half, I think, of the borough's paths.
Sure. I mean, what we consider doing, like you said, we can't actually put that in a legal record, but what we could consider doing is maybe putting a link on our webpage for the definitive map to the SANGs page where people can find further information. But we can't actually put it within the record itself. Brilliant. Thanks, Hugh.
Ask a quick question. What form would the definitive map, the new definitive map, be issued in? Because I have the old one as the PDF on my computer, and it is really valuable, really useful in that form.
Yes, of course. So we will be doing the PDFs again, the PDF formats, I believe, because it's obviously a very big document, and so we've broken it down into 8 pages with the index page. So we'll be following that same process. So that will be available online. And like I said, we still do have that interactive map, which you can go and sort of actively scroll through and find rights of way. But the actual map itself, we will have PDFs available.
Excellent, because an awful lot of local authorities don't have the map available as a map. It's an online, it's a website. You only get the amount of detail that the website supports. It's not really very useful at all when I'm trying to sort of find obscure footpaths in places that aren't Bracknell Forest. It can get surprisingly tricky.
The online map in Bracknell Forest I find extremely helpful when I want to make a report about something or whatever. It's very easy to find it. The Wokingham one's not quite as easy, but it's fairly good where you get to cross-boundary ones. But the Bracknell Forest one I find very straightforward.
Just to say, our GIS browser is also available on the public website, isn't it? Yeah. Which does show the public rights of way, albeit that is not the legal record. So there is both, but in terms of a footpath user, it's still pretty accurate. So
yeah, they're good, but the PDF is something that is complete and doesn't require me. It's not limited by whatever limitations of scale might be in the website and the GIS pages.
If I may, Colin, just one other addition for the future value of updating the definitive map is that I believe the information goes to Ordnance Survey. So in time, the subtle revisions that we make feed into the Ordnance Survey maps that lots of walkers use. So it's very valuable from that point of view as well.
Okay, did you want to update us on those specific paths that are listed?
Yes, of course. So Mos's Path. So we've obviously raised this to a member's attention before about the creation of a formal public footpath along the Mos's Path route. We've made some improvements using Section 106 developer funding to this section, which Rob has been leading on. That was a Section 106 funded project, so development funding, we got approval to use that to make the footpath more accessible, and Rob is very kindly taking some pictures so you can see the before and afterwards of those improvements. sort of much more accessible, and it's sort of a clearly defined footpath. To also say as well, we've been making some inroads with regard to the actual dedication, the legal dedication of the public footpath. We've got been sort of working to get the sort of the relevant approvals, and we've now received those to do the footpath dedication. And I'm working with legal at the moment to draw up the legal paperwork, which includes a dedication agreement and all the relevant sort of like modification order information. So that is in progress at the moment. I'm hoping we'll have a more of a positive update in the next meeting in terms of, you know, forward progress on that one, but that's moving along. Hugh, sorry.
But there is only one landowner, is there not, and that's the borough.
The landowner, yes, but we need to liaise with the leaseholder. Yeah, as well. Yeah, okay, fine, thank you.
Sorry, did you want to mention the deletion of the little
Oh yes,
stub end of a bridleway north of the M4?
So yeah, so at the moment this is on our, we are again working with legal to draw some paperwork up to do that small deletion of the tiny section of redundant bridleway in Binfield. It was a condition of Binfield Parish Council that we need to do the footpath dedication and sort of footpath creation before we did the bridleway deletion. So at the moment our priority is to do the footpath creation, the Moz's path. And we'll look at the bridleway deletion after that as well. But we are sort of still pushing that forward as well.
Yeah, all I was going to add is it's just to make sure that we don't have a net loss of public rights of way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are looking at the creation first before we then delete that redundant section afterwards.
So has anybody actually walked that path apart from Hugh and Rob? The bridleway north of the M4.
I don't think it's possible to do so any longer.
No, I came to the conclusion it wasn't.
10 years ago, very, very difficult.
Yeah, I came to the conclusion it was just not it just doesn't exist. And it is, you know, for those who don't know, it is a tiny little stub that should have been extinguished when the motorway was built, but obviously never did get extinguished because the path has been diverted to go alongside the motorway and up to the bridge. So
yes, the top end of Mare Lane, once the motorway went in, cut off a very small section which remained to the north pointlessly, unfortunately.
Sorry, Sheila. Yeah.
Being new to this, you talk about a dedication of the footpath. Is there any sort of opening ceremony, or is that a step too far?
At the moment, we haven't sort of considered whether or not to do sort of a formal opening. I think our priority is to just try and get the footpath created and on the definitive map and statement of rights of way. One thing, because of the way we're doing the dedication, we will need to get some evidence of use. It's part of the sort of the legal process that we will need to record someone using the public footpath, walking along and using the footpath. Yes, any volunteers? More than it would be nice to do. Yes, yeah, it would be nice to do like a piece of if people were interested in getting a photo opportunity, because we've obviously, it's a very good project. We're obviously potentially creating this new right of way, and B, we've done some improvements to the service, which was Section 116 funded. So and LCAF have been heavily involved throughout. So it would be lovely to do a comms piece. I'm happy to support that if members are interested.
We could effectively do it when we put the footpath signs up as a kind of official opening.
Yeah, do the unveiling of the signs, and that gets some photographs, and we could do a nice press release on that.
I think that'd be a nice idea if you'd let us know, and then we can see you turn up.
Yeah. And Binfield Parish Council maybe wish to be involved.
Yeah, they would definitely be invited, because they've been sort of integral to the process as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Sheila.
Okay, which I think, if we finished on that one, brings us to the dreaded polo pitch paths. Who's doing the polo pitches?
That falls on me.
I thought it might, Rob.
Yes, so Wingfield 19 and 13, I know these have cropped up for some time now. However, we do have an actual update and hopefully some good news. So myself and Stephen have had correspondence and 2 meetings with representatives of the Royal Berkshire Polo Club, one in December and then one during January, to frankly just discuss the issues and work together to resolve said issues and formulate a plan going forward, as well as a time limit in terms of when we would expect those improvements to be made so that the current diversion route can become a formal footpath, which has been the plan now since Graham's retirement for a little while. On the map on the slide, which I realise does look a little complicated at this stage, it's the dotted line, which is the line of the diversion route, is what we are concentrating on. The number 1, so the sort of square box on the right-hand side, is a section that links off of footpath 7. It's a grassed pathway, albeit it has had some use from vehicular traffic and is quite wet, muddy, rutted in places. There's an agreement from the Polo Club to surface that section with aggregate, as well as utilising some of the drainage to the ditch to one side to drain some water off and provide a year-round surface, as well as providing them with necessary access to some of the kind of northeastern horse paddocks. That then falls onto a main trackway, which is pretty walkable, quite suitable. It does have shared use, but the traffic along there is very, very minor, so we don't see that being too much of a problem. Similarly, the southern section linking off of footpath 13 up to 19, that kind of dogleg section down there, again, is across a grassed path and then meets up with the main track. So again, not a huge problem. Similarly, the other dogleg kind of on the north section, running from, if you can see the letter C around those W's back down to D, that again is across a grassed polo pitch and avoids cutting across the top corner of an existing playing pitch. So that kind of works quite well there. We move into number 2, which is that circled section. This is still within a works area. What we have agreed in terms of a plan going forward is that that red dotted line will provide a smaller, shorter diversion route, which allows walkers to bypass that works area, which is kind of the rest of what would be that diversion route, and allows access along a agreed hardcore aggregate path, which links to the top of a mowed grass field at the top of one of the polo paddocks, and allows the link to the other side and down past Cheval Stud. These works are agreed to be completed by May by the Polo Club, and that also includes the waymarking of those routes, as well as a slight widening of a ditch crossing into the works area. Upon inspection of said works in May, we will then be able to confirm the diversion order and effectively, hopefully, make that path an official footpath in terms of those diversion routes, at which point the Polo Club will have to work with us to apply for a secondary, smaller TTRO, so temporary closure with the diversion of that red dotted line, which allows those works areas to commence and finish, which we are being assured will be completed within about a 12-month period, at which point we will then be able to reinstate the full diversion and then finish that path off. So that's the plan going forward, hopefully by May, if that makes any sense.
So just to be clear, Rob, the red dotted line at that top left is a temporary route, not the intended permanent route.
Temporary route, yes, because at the moment, what we have in terms of the temporary diversion is all those black dotted lines on that map, which is confused and messy. What we can't do is access from A on the right-hand side, the black line, which would have been the existing footpath, now goes up a big mound of soil. The diversion needs to progress to the agreed route of those dotted lines. What we can do through conversations and meetings that we've had with the Polo Club is resolve all of those problems there to get that diversion working and suitable as a rural footpath. What that does leave is that section on the left-hand side as a remaining works area. So what we need to do is provide a shorter, smaller temporary diversion to allow those works to complete and finish, and then reinstate that last little section.
Hugh?
Of any dedication, this one deserves a celebration. It's been a problem since the end of the 1990s. 1998, it was a big issue, and it's remained such ever since. And if you can solve it, well done.
I think it's the longest standing issue that I've known of in the borough for the footpaths. So thank you to Rob and to Stephen for progressing it. It'll be lovely to see it finished, and I'm looking forward to doing my July inspection of those paths.
From the meetings we've had, the Polo Club have been very supportive of the works that we've suggested, and I think now have a better understanding of what is required in terms of getting this resolved for, frankly, themselves, in terms of avoiding some of the polo pitches, as well as allowing users to walk a way-marked route, whereas previously and now it's a bit of a free-for-all for all people in terms of no one really knows where they should be going and where they shouldn't be going.
So if they stick to their May timeline for our next LCAF meeting, we should be able to have a slide showing the end results.
Hope so.
Does anybody have any other questions and comments about those paths? Perhaps once it's done, we probably should have a team walk of them. Let's move on, and we come to item 9, which is public rights of way and local development, which is where we come back to one of Sheila's deferred questions.
Yeah, hopefully I can certainly answer part of it from these drawings. So these are drawings we've got from our planning colleagues in terms of the development, and this is a highlighted western section of Hedge Lane. So we've got Old Priory Lane on the left-hand side of that diagram. What this is highlighting is the route itself in terms of the orange line. This is a section of newly surfaced or to be newly surfaced bridleway with a necessary road crossing. This road crossing will be similar to those on Avery Lane if that happened a couple of years ago, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. The ditch works, at the moment, they do exist in some shape or form, but are redundant and defunct. They cause flooding and waterlogging, certainly every winter, to that section of bridleway. As part of the works to the development and also enhancing the bridleway for all users, those ditchways and some of the vegetation will need to be cleared. It will have to be cleared to get access to the ditch works. The ditches will then be improved with better flow to alleviate some of that flooding.
But that map doesn't actually show the bit that is really badly flooded. It's because Priory Lane, Old Priory Lane, is further to the left. Or
No.
Is that Priory Lane?
Yeah. So where it says segregated entranceways for users, the left arrow, that is pointing to the entrance off of Old Priory Lane.
Well, they changed the line
I
of
was
it then.
going to say, are they changing the
whole line of the path?
It doesn't look like
That's
that.
that's
It has
certainly
much
not.
more of a.
There's virtually a right angle turn in it,
near-
roughly where the end of the red arrow is that said segregated entrances for users going up to the left. Where you're telling me Priory Lane is, I'm saying there's another 200 yards of path. But
this is really only the very short stretch at the West End. And you can see at the end of the right-hand side of the map, it turns north. And yes, the really muddy pit is further up that path to the north, where it then goes through another right angle. And that's the bit which really floods, but clearly isn't part of the current work for this closure.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah.
What you don't see.
I thought we were looking at.
No, the western
No.
where Old Priory
Yeah.
Lane.
So it's for those who aren't following this, it's the western third approximately of the path that we're looking at, isn't it?
No,
No.
it's the very, very western end
Yeah.
is what we are looking at.
Right. Okay.
So Old Priory Lane
we
is
have a
on
there's
the
the
far
right-
left of that diagram.
Yeah.
The bridleway runs through, goes now, there will be a new crossing, and then
Yeah,
it kinks sharply to the north
Yeah.
Yeah.
where the orange finishes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
This is the sort of flooded problematic area.
Okay.
So are there two punch throughs?
I think there are two functions. Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that.
Because that's got the area in the north there is going to be housing again. Is that correct?
I believe so. I
Yes,
mean,
that's
that
why
is
they
not
need the
my
roadway.
department.
That's why they need the roadway into it.
So presumably at some point there's going to be another closure of Hedge Lane to do the punch through further east.
I don't have the exact details of how much they're completing in the 6-month period.
Oh, okay. You've just got the map of that bit that you wanted to highlight to us. I'm with you now, Rob. Thank you. Sheila, does that answer your question from earlier? Yeah.
On the ground, there is distinct markings of a similar punch through on the section that is way to the right of that map.
I think you're right.
Okay. But we don't know whether that's been worked on in this particular closure.
I've no idea.
And we won't be able to find out because we can't go down there.
They're meaning to break through the hedge and through across the lane into the field on
Yeah.
the other side.
Yeah.
But
I think
that's
that
not
is
that
being
crossing.
done in this closure, but I don't want to say definitively in case it is.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions or comments about Hedge Lane?
The only thing to say, just this is a highlighted image of one of those crossings, just to better highlight how that will work in terms of the logistics.
Could you just orientate us on that? Is the pathways going across left to right, is it?
Correct. The bridleway is going left to right with the highway going north to south. The grade section is the road highway. There will be vehicle access gates on the sort of trumpeted or widened sections, allowing for maintenance vehicles, which is a problem that we've encountered on Avery Lane, where the barriers don't allow vehicles to get through. Certainly some of the maintenance that we would regularly do. And this will provide segregated crossings for the horse riders and other users. So this is, for instance, saying the horse riders would go to the kind of north and then the other users to the south. The crossings are set slightly off of the road, so that which is in line with the BHS guidelines in terms of allowing a horse to cross safely across a road rather than going from gate straight to road. The widths are also within BHS guidelines, as well as the surfacing, which will have a suitable sub base as well as a compacted gravel surface, which should be suitable for all users.
And the roadway, is that designed to slow the traffic as it comes up to it?
I'm afraid I don't have details on that side of things.
Because that's the bit that would always worry me. Is that
it will be within a housing estate.
It looks as if it narrows.
It does say not paved, raised table. So I'm assuming raised would slow things.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully the whole estate will have a speed limit of some sort on it as well.
If anyone wants to see something very similar, the north end of West End Lane, the bit I'm complaining about being closed for too long,
right,
has that sort of crossing in it.
Okay.
But they won't open it.
And
even though the crossing's all complete, they won't let people use it.
And Avery Lane as well is the same.
That's open. The Avery, there's one similar one in Avery
Yeah.
Lane, but the Avery Lane one is slightly older and not quite as well designed.
Good. Okay.
Could I just ask, Can we confirm that Hedge Lane won't need closing again for the second punch through?
I cannot confirm that, no.
Can
Can the issue for
can somebody?
We can
confirm
certainly
that?
ask. I think it's important to note that often with developer works or some form of construction, that rights of way may be diverted for longer periods of time. That is not something that does, that does happen. I just want to make sure that the group is aware of that. There is not a limit, much like the Polo Club. On that 6 months, the 6 months is up. It has to go to the Secretary of State in terms of a extension for another 6 months. But in theory, that can roll on.
I think the question was as much around, is there an intention to close to
Nothing
do
that
further
I've
work?
heard of.
No, okay.
Okay, because I think I'll just point out something that's probably quite obvious. There are a lot of very upset people in Warfield because of this closure, because it is a very popular bridle way.
I think I understand, and that does make sense. It's a little bit out of our hands in terms of the developers require the closure. They pay for and apply for the closure. Therefore, it is now in place. On the other side of things, once we are through and they are finished, albeit there will be those crossings, personally, from my experience of that bridle way, the drainage and the surfacing, I would like to think would perform a much more usable strip of pathway than it is currently. It does get very, very wet on that western side, where a horse might be able to just about get through, but not a lot else.
I think we need to sell the positives, that it should get a lot more usable.
Stables will be closed because that's where the houses are going.
Yeah.
And cyclists, absolutely. Don't want to stop the horses using it, but there won't be the same horse population.
Okay, any more questions on Hedge Lane? All done. Let's move on to item 10. Sorry, Rob, this is you again, I believe.
Yeah, I know. That's because I missed the last meeting, isn't it? That's fine. Yeah, moving on to some recent SANG improvements. I think these were mentioned in the last meeting, weren't they? In terms of pending improvements or something that was ongoing at the time. This is highlighting a section of the Shepherd's Meadow North or Shepherd Meadow Extension SANG, which is a section of enhancements that we are working with Sandhurst Town Council to improve accessibility through mainly their leased section or owned managed section of the Memorial Park, which will link back to the wider Shepherd's Meadow SANG. This is kind of stage one of the enhancement work. I'm sure it's been mentioned before, but in terms of the SANG, the funding comes through from developer contributions, and the works are completed in line with that, and therefore are completed incrementally in terms of we can't do everything all at once. We are therefore highlighting certain issues, and certainly accessibility comes very high up the list of that, where we can do a certain amount of works at one time, and then we move on and move on and move on until we complete the plan. So there's, I think the next couple of slides kind of shows some of the enhancement work. Yes.
Can I just ask, it just looks very narrow, that bridgey bit. Do you know how wide it is?
About 1.2, which is pretty standard footpath.
Okay,
widths.
it just looked quite narrow.
Yeah. Yep. So we've obviously taken muddy sections, improved ditch works, crossings, etc., to allow people to be able to access through these otherwise poor areas. And if you keep going, then there's, sorry, the last one, the previous one, a section of board walking and stuff through Seabees Wood, or Seabees Copse, which is a very wet meadow, woodland area, which is now kind of semi-surfaced and boardwalked through the worst sections. Like I say, this is only stage one of these works, so these are the initial enhancement works. There will be more going in line with developer contributions.
Can I just clarify that either side of this work, it isn't a paved path? The reason
it
I'm
is, yeah.
asking is because I have in mind that the Sandhurst area would be a good place for the forum to have a visit, and I'm very conscious that Les and Sharon would be at least nice to include them in part of it. But I know that a countryside footpath wouldn't probably be suitable for all. So I was just trying to work out whether this area and also the other bits alongside the Blackwater River, there are relatively paved areas. It might be one that we could do an inclusive site visit.
I think with this, there, like I keep saying, this is sort of stage one of work.
Yeah.
So further improvements will happen.
Right.
Yes, this links off of surface path from both ends.
Right.
Where it comes out onto the pond, that's relatively well surfaced, but also has a kind of driveway which runs down to the pond, which is surfaced. And there is certainly a section of Shepherd's Meadow in terms of the Parks and Countryside section that runs down to the Marshall Road entrance bridge, over and back round, which is a semi-surfaced route. In terms of any further down to the bridge closure is certainly more natural.
Because I was going to, I know that Alex, the ranger there, doesn't look after the whole of that park area, but I was going to ask whether he might be available to give us a wider guided tour of the area as a site visit, possibly extending outside of his designated part. But it just seemed to me like a good place that we could be inclusive of Les and Sharon into it to some degree, but maybe not all of it. Hugh.
There's no tow board on that boardwalk, side boards, which means that push chairs and wheelchairs have a nasty habit of falling over the edge. If it's a well-used public park, part of Shepherd's Meadow, I would have thought that it'd be worth thinking about putting a tow board along there.
We don't tend to put them on a lot of boardwalks anymore because of the fact that it just gets damaged. They get kicked off, broken, rotten.
I know that.
So these are also gripped decking boards.
Right.
So they're decking boards with the gripping that's inlaid within them.
Yeah.
So then they are better than previous.
Yes. But I would have thought there's a difference between wild areas like Wildmoor, where there are miles and miles of boardwalk, and I can see that tow boards get vandalized. In public parks where there is a lot of child pushing and wheelchair potential, which we want to create, I would have thought a tow board made a lot of more sense of safety. But that's just an observation.
Stephen.
I think there's always two sides, isn't there? The tow boards can provide trip hazards as well. So the point at which they start and finish can be an issue, and it's hard to make them visible for people. So at the same time as providing people with that emergency stop, if they have got too close to the edge, then people just looking to go on and off the path, particularly if there's leaves on the edge, you can create a trip hazard without meaning to.
Any other questions about Shepherd Meadows and the town area? Okay, well, thank you for that. And we then...
I'm just going to say...
Oh, sorry, Sheila.
I've got some questions about other areas of Sang, or should I wait till the end of this item?
Coming to item 11, which is any other business. Now, we have a list of any other business that has been put in there, but you're very welcome to add to that list, Sheila. So if we move on and just go through the ones that the team has highlighted, and then we'll open it up, if that's all right for you. And I'm aware that we haven't answered all of the questions you started earlier.
I can certainly do these first two relatively quickly, just to make the forum aware that we've had some issues, or the landowners had some issues with security on Mare Lane from Felix Fishery to the motorway. And as such, we readily have logs and other things put in the way, blocking access to that section of restricted byway, which, albeit for horse riders, does come to a dead end, but it does get used. And there is a footpath linking off of it, which is also useful. Working alongside the landowner and the leasees in terms of the fishery club, we are going to install a bridleway gate along there, which will allow for vehicle access and year-round bridle access, but obviously restricts and stops, say, things like quad bikes, and restricts access, certainly speed of, say, like motorbikes and other issues that those landowners are encountering, as well as still providing that year-round access for site users. We've also got the understanding that once the gate goes in, all the vegetation around that entranceway will be cut back to that width. So we're gaining kind of a bit of a better entranceway there. And then the replacement to the bridge on Warfield 6.
Warfield 6
goes from Malt Hill to Brock Hill along the new windmill sang.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, at the farm, at the Apple Tree, whatever it is, farm.
Windmill Farm.
Windmill Farm.
Yeah, Windmill Farm. So there is a small culvert bridge crossing about a third way down from Malt Hill, which is seen better days, put it that way. So we've got a contractor starting next week who's going to replace that bridge and put a new bridge in. We've put out a TTRN notice for a 5-day closure. Hopefully the works won't take 5 days for next Monday, and those notices are out on site.
You're not having the opportunity to take out that squeeze towel there?
Yes, that's going to come out as well. The one just before the bridge.
Yeah,
that's just going to go.
Yeah, I did. It serves no purpose, and just as an impediment.
Completely unnecessary.
Excellent. Good idea. So then I think we come to the question that Sheila raised earlier, which we sort of semi-addressed, of Hayley Green Track. Did you have anything more to say about it?
No, I think when everybody completed their forms, they sort of expected that once they were submitted to the council would go, oh yes, that's fine, and create a public right of way. Clearly now, from the update you've provided to everybody, that isn't the case, and it's my understanding that we're now looking for somebody to apply formally for that track to be adopted as a public right of way. Is that correct?
In essence, correct.
Yeah.
For the council to proceed on a claimed rights of way use, essentially we follow the same procedure as any DMMO, so definitive map modification order, which may be a creation, a diversion, or in this case, a claimed use. For us to have claimed use, it is important for us to receive an application from a organisation or a member of the public who is willing to front that application in terms of that claimed use. It is essentially their responsibility to gain all necessary evidence, as well as providing a certification to landowners in terms of the fact that they have applied for said use. Once the application, the certificate, and all the user evidence comes to the council, it's at that stage that the council facilitates that process and would need to discuss issues with everyone involved, including landowners. It's also important to note that for a right of way to be a claimed use, it needs to be that 20-year period of unbroken use for 20 years without signage, without gating, without various other means that would otherwise make that process redundant, as well as a footpath or bridleway, whatever the right of way may be. It's likely that there is going to need to be an A to B. So in the Hayley Green Track, for instance, if people are coming in past Sentosa, that end, and into Westmoreland Park, that would probably not suffice. We would need 20 years use from that Sentosa's house on the corner all the way through to the Warfield Park end, so that there is a line of right of way. Otherwise, the right of way would show a dead end. So we would need 20-year use all the way through. And yes, an application would need to be fronted by a member of the public or an organisation, be able to the council to stay in a neutral and unbiased position in terms of any decisions.
Sheila, your microphone's off.
Sorry. Why has the council collected the evidence if you're not going to be using it and the applicant is still expected to collect the evidence?
Say that again, sorry.
Why has the council collected the evidence when the applicant will be expected to collect the evidence? And will the applicant be able to use the council's evidence that all the residents have provided?
Yes, the council has an obligation to make the public aware of their capabilities in terms of we are obligated to supply pro formas in terms of user evidence forms, as well as the application forms, as well as making people aware of their rights in terms of claimed use, which is why we can receive user evidence forms, but we cannot proceed until someone hands us an application form and is willing to essentially front the bid. Is probably not the right terms, but I'm sure that makes some sort of sense.
I'll shout.
No, you need to put the microphone on. I mean, sorry, they won't hear you online.
I'll be down there then. So I've got a map here, and I've walked this last weekend. That is the bit that everyone's worried about. You can gain access into Warfield Park, both sides, from a number of paths which are formally done. There's another path that comes off here that looks like somebody's using it as a track, but that goes down to the bottom, and I've been there. There's no need to go and do all of that, but that is a
Warfield Park.
This is Warfield Park itself.
Correct. Yep.
Right. That path has been made up and ends there.
Correct.
And then that road goes all the way up the top.
Correct.
So is the I've actually done.
So in terms of land registry,
that.
So this section here, this is not accurate. Is privately owned. This section here is privately owned.
Okay. And that is by the 3 people at that top. So there's one there. Oh, only one house.
As far as I know, it's one property.
So if they wanted to, they could block the path off because it's their own land. Okay. And this one down here?
It's Warfield Park.
So Warfield Park is the owner of this facility, and
no, this is Westmoreland Park. This
Westmoreland Park.
This is part of Parks and Countryside, as well as some section of Hayley Greenwood.
Yeah. Okay then.
And this is Warfield Park down here.
Yeah.
Who happen to own this sort of southern section of the trackway in question.
The trackway originally was a drive to Warfield Park.
Yes, in fact, that goes all the way down here.
Yeah.
And that bit there, that's already made up.
No, that's part. So that's part of a public open space called Warfield Chase.
Okay. Yes.
With
Okay.
it's under council's permission.
Okay.
Ownership.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yes. Okay.
Is that clear, Sheila, that
Yes, it's clear. I guess now somebody needs to find an applicant. I know the request has been put into Warfield Parish Council. I don't know whether they will take that up, and I don't know whether it's something the Ramblers do.
The Ramblers do this. Yeah.
Maybe that's the
seek
better
advice
option.
in some degree. I would seek advice from the Ramblers if they are willing to take that on. I've not asked that permission at the moment. What I've done is I've got a lot of maps, and I can confirm, in fact, that the Warfield Park path has been in use for 200 years, beyond what is shown on the map I've just shown. And it's the same path. I can also show that the paths in 1934 were all being used by cyclists, because the Bartholomew's map from that stage identified that they were being used then, because they had a wean by which they had cyclists going around, and they reported back as to a path. It didn't actually say if it was a private path or an open one, but all the paths that are on the Bartholomew's map have been cycled by somebody. And 1934, it came down from there and did a sort of a bomb burst at the far end of Warfield, what you've pointed out as Warfield Park. So there is, I've gathered what I would consider to be reasonable evidence. The other one that is missing would be the. Oh.
No, you were on. Go back on.
I'm looking at the wrong line. Yeah. So the evidence is from all the people then that live in the paths that have walked it. I had about 15 people that I spoke to. It took me an hour. And that was just doing the first 200 yards. And they were willing to provide details, which I've physically got. And they have all walked the path for over 20 years. There's a few who've done it for over 40 because they've lived in the area for that long. And where do they go from? They walk their dog up to the main road and back. A lot, however, go to the Cricketers and the other pubs up the road and then walk back on the same path. I was only there for an hour and I gained a lot of people. They said, or a couple of them said, if you do a survey, then include the following areas. And they would be possibly 2/3 of the population of those areas. Those that answered, of course, not the population itself, would be willing to say that they've used the path for a number of years, and the majority would be over 20. But that's only based on a stroll down the forest.
So I think the way that I've understood it is there are lots of people who claim to have used it in the for the appropriate period. It is this question of finding somebody who will put in an application, which I was going to say onerous. It's certainly not simple, and given that the landowners may not be willing to accept the application, could become contentious, could end up going to an inquiry. So it's got to be somebody with stamina, I think is the way I would put it. The stamina to see it through is the way that I would.
Sorry, can I add?
Yeah.
You say, just sorry, on your point that it is non-transferable. So once an application was received by the council, that applicant would need to see. At that point, the council is obligated to investigate or facilitate the process so that you cannot withdraw it. Although if you kind of obviously didn't get in further, it would obviously probably not go anywhere. Also, the person or organisation making that application would need to see it to completion. They couldn't transfer it to a friend or someone else or anything like that. So it's a big undertaking.
Yeah.
Which
is why, you know, the Warfield Parish Council would be an ideal one from that point of view to be taking it forward. They have the interest, they have the local residents in mind, and they would be have longevity, which an individual might not, because this could be years of work, getting a contentious change of use or our dedication. So you need to find somebody with the stamina and the longevity.
My mother-in-law's dead, I'm sorry.
But yeah, so it is a challenging one, and I think you did explore at the first part whether they were interested in putting a permissive path down there, but I don't think that was something they were. Yeah, Graham had meetings and they weren't interested in having a permissive path, which would be a simpler way of getting things open quickly. If you go down the process, it is going to be years. I would assume that if you assume that the landowners were going to object and it would go to a public inquiry, this is not a quick process.
Yes, I understand it. The Ramblers, I would suggest would be, I wouldn't say that they would be up to having that, but I'm not of an age where I'm going to last 15 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, I might be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Would I be senile at the end of it? Possibly.
Yeah.
But let's say, for example, I said, yes, I'll do it. I would not use my own email. I'd use the email that the Ramblers would give me, because then that gives the organisation, the Ramblers, the point of contact for what goes on, and that has happened, but not. It's quite rare. Generally, it's the local people who actually do it, as you quite rightly say.
Exactly. Okay, I think we better move on because we've still got a few other any other businesses. Rose, you wanted to say something about Surrey County Council?
Yeah, just a very quick update to members. Say that we've been approached by Surrey County Council, who are in the process of reviewing, updating their rights of way improvement plan. So they've approached us, Borough Council, for comment, and I believe that they'll be consulting their own local or countryside access forum. They're particularly interested in current or future cross-boundary or access projects, routes or promotion. So we will be looking at putting some feedback together, and at some point it will be useful to get your sort of feedback on what we're suggesting as well, to make sure we've covered all bases.
Having said that, Rose, I think I pointed out to you, I don't think there are any cross-boundary footpaths, public rights of way, shall I say, from Surrey into Bracknell Forest, because they end up in the Crown Estate where all of them terminate on the boundary, because there are no public rights of way in Bracknell Forest on the Crown Estate land, apart from one or two which used to be part of the Forestry Commission land. So I don't think there are any cross-boundary paths in that sense. Whether it's relevant to talk about the linkages to the, I'm not sure how to describe it, the allowed public access into the Crown Estate land, I don't know. But yeah, there are no public rights of way, as far as I'm aware, across that boundary.
Okay, thanks, Colin. Thanks for the feedback.
Okay, there was one other didn't go on the list here that was on the notes here, was Hugh's request for a entrance to Frost Folly 2 from Church Lane. Is there anything we can do to progress that?
Yep, so I put that on the notes just as a reminder, frankly. I've had some recent conversations with colleagues in the planning and highways departments in terms of what we would be required to get this off the ground or get this moving forward. And to try and cut a long story short, I think we need to establish where we would like an entranceway to go. And I would kind of put that to the group, and certainly it'd be nice to have a couple of members possibly meet out on site to kind of discuss further. There was some initial concerns from highways in terms of the bend. So where a gate or entranceway would need to be located, would need to be considering that bend. But at the point of discussion, if we can find, and there's also there's a ditchway as well, which would need to be taken into, yeah. If we could discuss that and find somewhere suitable, I will then take it back to the highways colleagues, who will be willing to sort of audit that area and let us know essentially what we would need to do from that point to be able to take it further. Obviously, to get to a final point, we would obviously need to consider funding and things like that, depending on what was required. But that's certainly what we need to progress.
Okay, well, I would certainly volunteer to come along with you to have a look. Hugh, are you interested? Yeah. Just let us know a date, and we'll. But I think it's really important. I mean, the SANGs seem to be designed for car users, which isn't sort of fit with the council's climate change objectives these days. So, making it accessible from all of these new estates that have been built in Moorfield by foot, I think would make a lot of difference. And by bike.
Yeah, just to add in this instance, colleagues that I've spoken to were fully understanding of linking back to those Warfield public rights of way, and that would make sense. It's just the grounds of A, funding, and B, safety. And
no, I agree. It's just another area of where development work doesn't always consider the access to adjacent land. So yeah, if you want to suggest some dates, that would be great. Right. Have I missed anything, Rose?
No, just one very quick thing. I just wanted to raise members' attention to the Walks for Wellbeing programme, which is currently run by the public health team. A lot of the walks take place in our green spaces. The information's available on the public health portal, and we're currently sort of trying to promote the walks in site notice boards and sharing information about them. So I just wanted to, they're really good sort of brilliant programme of walks, free to get involved with, and it's really good to sort of promote local health wellbeing.
Okay, so over to you. Any other businesses? Sheila, have we answered all your questions? No? That's all right. You're here to talk. Could you put your microphone on?
I'm going to go back to Sang. Sorry, Blue Mountain and Amen Corner North. I have been invited to view both sites next week and I'm going out to have a look. Is there an update on their adoption by the council?
I don't have one, I'm afraid. No, other than to say we are looking into it. There's a meeting booked with Binfield Parish Council. So we are looking into it with the various parties that are involved, but nothing specific to update on, and still just a general council desire to try and get solutions found, but I don't know what the solutions are.
Okay, the resident who is taking me on these tours is very concerned that the sites are really degrading now, and they're going to take an awful lot of work and therefore money to get back up into a standard that they can be adopted. So it's something I'm going to try and pursue in my role as a councillor as well.
Can I just ask a question on that one? Does Natural England have any comeback on developers who allow Sangs to degrade whilst they fester until they get somebody to take them over and manage them properly?
It's part of what we're looking into is all of those options. The definition of a Sang is relatively easy to meet. So it's quite hard to actually prove that somebody simply hasn't provided a site that would meet the definition of a Sang. So I'm not sure we can call people to task on the specific condition of it, but it does need to be of an appropriate condition to be a desirable location. It needs to be genuinely capable of drawing people away from the SPA areas that it's protecting. But the exact mechanisms for how we can put people in default, we're not quite sure of at the moment, or I'm not quite sure of. So we're looking into that. It's not something we've had to do before. And I think we're probably with some of those sites, we're getting to the point now where we share your concerns. We can see that the sites are degrading, and it might be that they get to the point where there just isn't the connected path network, or it might fall foul of some of the definitions that are actually there to say what a Sang is. But yeah, we'll keep looking into it and keep doing what we can to try and find a resolution.
There must be a safety element in it, which I would have thought that both of them are getting to the point where the paths are becoming unsafe. In this, and Sheila, you may see that when you go on your visit.
I will. I have had a report of a boardwalk in one which has got a hole in it. So really, people shouldn't be walking on it.
Yeah. I would have thought from my last visit to them, they should be considered to being closed for being unsafe, in which case they don't meet the requirement for providing an alternative space. So that might be an angle to look at, especially if Sheila could give a report back from her walk around. That would be helpful, because I know you don't have rangers allocated to walk round these ones, so you may not get those reports. No. So Sheila, would you be prepared to give a report back and perhaps inform the forum at the next meeting as well? That would be really helpful. Anybody else? Sheila, any more on your list? Okay.
Yes, just finally, the Appendix 2, which was proposals for new public rights of way. Who actually pursues these? Because I have one of interest, which we've talked about before, which is the link from Cabbage Hill Sang across to Hazelwood Lane.
So let me give you a background on that.
I know the background.
No, I was going to give you the background on the appendix.
Okay.
So the appendix was my idea because we kept talking about desired places to have paths, and I wanted to capture them and them not to get lost. So I asked Rose to make sure that appendix, which I update every now and again when anything does change, to go out every time so we just don't lose the ideas. The pursuing them to go forward obviously requires there to be an opportunity and the resource and the time and effort to make it go forward. I was working with Graham on some of them until he retired, and then I said to Rose and Rob when they had to pick up his workload, well, maybe we just have to just be aware that not everything can be moved forward as it at the speed we would like. So it depends. Yes, that does depend.
I just wondered if
Yeah, no, you were on.
if anybody was talking to Thames Water at the moment, because there must be an opportunity. They aren't a very popular company.
Yeah.
And therefore, it might be good PR for them to provide this footpath. On the other hand, they may not have any money to do it. I don't know.
So I'll give you a little more background on that one, because I tried pursuing that one. I wrote to their chief executive, who then got sacked about 6 months later, having this, and I got a reply from their chief executive saying, this is a really good idea. Please talk to these people. Those people got involved, including their biodiversity officer. Rob and I went on a site visit with them. We were asking initially for a permissive path because we thought it would be quicker, simpler. Then their legal people got involved and they wanted to transfer the land to the council and started thinking about things. And then they went awfully quiet. For about 3 LCF meetings in a row, I asked for updates and I got no reply. So I have to say at that point, I followed in Hugh's footsteps of failure because Hugh's pursued it in the past.
Days that Hawks, the hedgers, were close to Thames Water and used to coppice Hazelwood copse regularly for 10, 15 years. And then, or despite the close association we had with their biodiversity officer, a great brick wall descended on us. So we're not allowed in it any longer. And it seems odd, altogether very odd. They seem to have closed the barriers.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be a really, really useful, safe link, because there is no safe link from Cabbage Hill into the Hazelwood Lane and that wonderful byway network or bridleway network we have to the north.
The hope is that, well, it's not a hope, it's a fear. The north face of Cabbage Hill will eventually be developed. When that is developed, the argument for a crossing of Forest Road into Hazelwood Lane will be so strong that it will happen. But until then, I don't think it will.
But it's not in the local plan, so it's not going to happen for
a
number of years.
No, exactly. So if you've got any ideas, and if you're willing to find another way of addressing Thames Water, I don't know. I mean, it just, we were so hopeful. We thought we were going there. And then it just went deadly silent. So Sheila, sorry. Okay, we're getting well past 9 o'clock. Mike? Yeah, I was going to ask Jenny and Cherise, any questions from those online?
Not from me, thank you.
Okay, thank you. In which case, we have public question time, but we have no members of the public present. So we move on to item 13, which is quickly a date of the next meeting. Pop it in your diaries. Tuesday, the 4th of June, 2024, 7 p.m. Same format as this one. And we shall celebrate the polo pitch paths having been completed. But unfortunately, the council doesn't. Unfortunately, the council does not allow us to have champagne in here. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Richard, as a visitor. Thank you for your contribution. Hopefully some of it was interesting beyond your contribution. And I will get back to you all about arranging a site visit, and I will